You, Corinne. Hello, everyone. I'm David Dias. I'm gonna start sharing my screen right now. And today we're gonna talk about web accessibility. I'm sure you already know a lot about it, but I wanted to go through some of the stuff that may be interesting for you. So before I start, who am I? I'm a front-end dev at KG Canada. I've been playing with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript since 2001, and I'm passionate about tech and a lot of other stuff. You can find some of my open source project on GitHub. But usually when people ask me who I am, I usually respond that I'm French, my parents are Portuguese, I'm a solid Brazilian, I live in Brazil. My wife is from Mauritius, and I currently live in Canada, so I'm international, if I can say. Just a quick fun fact, hopefully will make you smile a little bit. I work with two awesome guys, Benjamin and Julien, in 2011 and 13, and the funny thing is they both now work at Le Bon Coin, and we are now part of the same group, so it's kind of a fun thing. So now I would like you to imagine your future home. Imagine you spend time, many years, putting money aside, hiring an architect to build that home, and you have high expectations. And the only request you say is, I want a red front door. That's the only thing you ask for. And then one day the architect calls you and say, hey, your home is ready. Come. Cool. Okay. And this is when you arrive, this is what you see. And you're like,
Sorry, really fast, David. I don't think that you're sharing your screen. Can you try sharing it again?
oh. So you're not seeing my screen. Can you see my screen right now?
Nope, still not showing up. Do you want to send me the link?
Yeah, give me one sec. I think it's the authorization for Chrome on Mac. Give me one sec.
Sure.
Can you see my... Let me try again. I'm really sorry about that. Okay, give me one sec. I'm going to restart Chrome, or do you see my screen right now?
You made it. It's working.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I'm going to start again. I'm going to go quick. I'm sorry about this. So again, with the slides, who am I? Front-end dev at KGG Canada. You heard already what I said before, so should be good. That's you already heard too again, but it's better with the pictures. Benjamin, Julien, like I said. And now we're gonna start again. Imagine you fit your home, you already imagine it, and then that's what you see. And you're like, wait, what? How someone can build a home without stairs? Like, that doesn't make sense. Maybe it's a bad joke, or I don't know, you don't get it. And you'd be totally right. So who does that? And actually, it's not something that happens just a few times. It's something that happens a lot. Like, for example, this tree that was in the middle of a wheelchair ramp, or these stairs. Like, I don't know who did this. Or even like in that desk space in a university that obviously you can't access with a wheelchair. Or even the braille on the alarm. You see that the alarm and the stop button have exactly the same. And it's not just for like people with disabilities. Like this bicycle path is just blocked by a big flower pot. Doesn't make any sense. Or again, a crosswalk that you can't access in a wheelchair. So how this can happen? Why people build inaccessible accesses? And that's maybe because we are all biased. We all see the world being something like that, where actually it may be more like that, or even like that. So our visions of the world doesn't always reflect the reality. So let's talk about our users for a second. We often imagine your users only using cell phone, last iPhone, desktop, or even tablets. But are they only using these devices? Or maybe they use a switch. This is a switch that allows you to do anything you want on a computer, navigate on the web, or eventually Braille displays. Like a lot of people use Braille displays. Or another switch button, a lot of people use this one too. Or even eyes tracking, or a mouse stick. These are all the devices that people use. So why do we build web applications for reduced group of people? I have a 1-minute video I wanted to share with you, and we'll talk about it in a minute.
Imagine a town full of physically impaired people, all wheelchair users. They run everything. There aren't any able-bodied people, so naturally, when they built the town, the community decided it was pointless to have ceilings 10 foot high and doors 7 foot high. So the ceilings were built at 7 foot and the doors at 5 foot. In every way, they designed the place the way they wanted it. One day, a few able-bodied people come to stay. One of the first things they notice is the height of the doors. And the reason they notice is because they keep hitting their heads. They come to stand out by the bruises they carry on their foreheads. Soon doctors, psychiatrists and social workers all become involved. Committees are formed. Many people are worried about what becomes known as the problem of the able-bodied. Throughout the town there is a growth of real concern. Specially toughened helmets are handed out, free to the able-bodied, to be worn at all times. Braces are designed which give support and relief, while keeping the able-bodied wearer bent to normal height. Various groups of compassionate wheelchair users get together and form registered charities. Every quarter they have a collection day. Upturned helmets are left in pubs and shops for people to drop their small change into. There is talk of founding special homes. But then one day, it dawns on the able-bodied that there is nothing actually wrong with them, just that society excludes them.
So, disabilities are often seen through some limiting models, like the medical model that views the impairment as a problem, or only through the social model that views the structure of the society as the problem. But we can also try to understand how we can integrate both of these models to see disability in a variety of levels and context, like social context, personal context. We are often biased in the way we picture our users, but we also wrongly believe in some myth related to accessibility. And I wanted to go through some of these.
Imagine a town full of...
No. So, next slide. So I'm going to talk just really quickly about 4 accessibility myths you may probably believe. So the first myth is only a small percentage of users need an accessible website or app. And it's actually not entirely true. Most studies found that around 20% of the population in almost each country have some kind of disability. And of course, the number of people who consider themselves disabled is huge on its own. But there is also a large percentage of the population who could benefit from accessible website or apps. The question is, who do not identify of having disabilities? And some examples I can give you, it's aging population. Aging population, they may need captioning on videos or even larger font size to read the text. You could have people that whose native or primary language is not English. They may need more time to read text on auto-rotating slideshows, or even people with limited or low visions. I'm sure you know people around you that can be in that situation. So when we consider all these additional groups, the number of people needing websites and apps built in an accessible way is much higher than the number of people reporting they are actually disabled. The second myth, accessibility is the responsibility of the web developer. And it can be true, because accessibility is something that needs to be understood by everyone: shareholders, marketing, web designers, UX designers, content creator. all these people and users, all these people should you understand why and what is accessibility and web accessibility and why it's so important to make things accessible. Myth number 3, it will take too much time, effort, and money to make our website or app accessible. So I'm gonna share something with you. Usually, what a lot of companies they do, they don't focus on accessibility, they don't invest in accessibility, and they found out when they release their product or after the release that they have a bunch of issues they need to fix, which require a really large investment. I'm gonna give you an example of something that happened a few years ago. Do you remember mobile first? This approach was confusing and sometimes frustrating, but we struggle through it, and now it's a normal part of your daily workflow. We don't think about how this needs to be accessible or not. We just do it. And a lot of web accessibility experts and advocates, they predict that it's going to be the same in the coming years. Another myth, users don't have issues with accessing websites. Of course they don't. And they have. And actually it's kind of, I mean, it's in from last year to this year, in the US and probably around the world, we have more than 20% more lawsuits that are created based on accessibility. It's huge. It's huge. And you can imagine that not everyone goes to a lawsuit, but it's becoming a really big problem. But how do we make sure everyone will have access to our websites? What should we do? And I'm going to start with something really complicated. Learn HTML. I know. You all know HTML. But even I've been doing HTML for more than 10 years, I still don't know HTML. And something I wanted to, just in case you don't know about it, is something called accessibility tree. The accessibility tree is something that all the browsers, they have. And the accessibility tree is something that is created when the DOM is created for the browser. And it's something that is used by all the assistive technologies to make it more understandable, to make it more, more understandable. So this is the example of how the accessibility tree organize all the HTML code you may have. This is an example for a form. And these are all the elements that any accessive technology takes and tell the users about. And that's how people know what things are and what they do. So another tip is use your website like any other user. I love that article from Manuel, really nice guy. He wrote that article in 2018 about I threw away my mouse. So it was an experiment for him, and he's an accessibility expert. He tried the web without using the mouse. This is a really interesting article where he shares a lot of his findings and what's the issue he had to face. I really recommend to read that article. And he also created, this is the funny part, but the HTML hell website where you can find crazy HTML code that actually are real code that people do in some websites. I really recommend to take a look. Another tip is include accessibility during the design phase. I'm gonna back to what I already shared before. Including accessibility in all the steps, web design, coding, testing, makes a huge difference. And you don't have to think that much about it because you're confident that your code is going to be accessible. Also important, doing automated tests. So we have a bunch of tools out there. We have Wave, we have Axe from DQ, Lighthouse that integrates some version of X. We have all the tools to do some automated tests. But automated tests is just a part of testing. We also need to do manual testing. These are like some examples of the tools that people use to make tests. JAWS and VDA, VoiceOver on Apple products, really good. But you also have tools for magnification. You also have other alternative navigation tools. All these tools needs to be used to test and to do manual testing. This schema is from Fable. It's a Canadian company that does an amazing work in in testing and doing a lot of manual testing. And something to keep in mind too is it's kind of a little bit before when we had Internet Explorer and like you have different tools. You need to test different tools. You need to test these tools in different browsers, different on macOS and Safari. VoiceOver works better on Safari than Chrome. But yeah, keep in mind that people use different tools to access the web. And you can do a lot of things yourself. You can reviewing your websites, reviewing the headings order. That's really common issue. Trying to navigate on with a keyboard on your website, your product. Use some assistive technology devices. I really highly recommend everyone to get familiar with it, and then test with real users. Because at the end of the day, it's nice to have automated tests. It's nice to ensure your code is correct, but at the end, real users will use your product. So it's important that you ensure that's going to work well for them. So why should we start with accessibility in mind? We should start to improve user experience. This is something from Microsoft, including, which explain and indicates it's not just about permanent disabilities. You may have temporal disabilities or situational disabilities. So for them, a mom that has her baby in one arm is just going to be able to navigate with her phone just with one hand. You need to think about it. You need to make accessible things with just a finger, if I may say. And it's always better to think about all possible users and really do UX, not sucks. Because sucks is just for some user experience, and it sucks. Sorry for the, yeah, okay. Moving on. Having accessibility in mind, improve SEO. Improve SEO because we talk about the headings, but we can talk also about the transcript for videos, because Google bot or other bots, they may not get what is inside a video. But if you have a transcript, the text, Google can know what it is about. So, and other examples, I didn't put all the examples, but definitely having accessibility in mind will make your website SEO compliant, if I can say that. Reputation, and it's actually the reason 3. Sorry about that. If you have accessibility in mind, your audience will expand. Something interesting for 2018, Accenture Strategy, they did a survey and they found out, I think everyone knows about it, but like all users want companies to take a stand on issues close to their heart. Many consumers want to support companies that share their beliefs, ideals, and values. So if you take a stand on web accessibility, you're building the foundation of a positive brand image for your organization. One way of doing it is having an accessibility statement on your website. Usually people have an accessibility link in the footer where they can have a document that states the commitment to web accessibility and describes the steps that the company is taking to be compliant with accessibility's framework like the WCAG. Also avoiding discriminations and lawsuits. You can find plenty and many examples of many lawsuits. You had like one a few years ago for, you probably are smiling, but on Beyonce's website because they were missing alternative text on images. You have Netflix, and this one is pretty huge because it was the National Association for the Deaf. Netflix in 2012, and following that lawsuit, what happened is most of the streaming services, they started taking care of having captions for all their videos. So even I'm sure you all use captions for videos. You remember that it's part of, and we should thank like these lawsuits and some associations for making the move and forcing some companies to do the right thing. So why we should do this? Why we should why accessibility is so important, why we should think about accessibility from the start and not at the end. And one quick answer to this is because it's the right thing to do. Not just, it may be more. It may be because just a little bit of effort from us, from everyone involved in the industry, or shareholders, the marketing, the product, can definitely drastically improve lives of a lot of people, including the ones of people around us, friends, family, parents. So I want to close that presentation with Tim Berners-Lee. This is a quote from him, and he was the one that created World Wide Web. It was the first of creating an HTML page. And he says that the power of the web is in its universality. Access by everyone, regardless of disability, is an essential aspect. And I think it's really important to keep this in mind. We are the front people. We are the one that build products for our users. And we need to think about them first. So I would say let's build a web for everyone, not just for some people. And if you want to continue and talk about accessibility, feel free to reach me anywhere under that username. And thank you for being with me and sharing these thoughts and learnings about web accessibility.
All right, thanks so much. I hear myself twice. I don't know why. Sorry. Thanks. I think that's why. So since we have a little bit of time, I saw that there's a couple questions in our comments really fast. So let me just go ahead and highlight some of them really quickly. So the first one from Alessandro: do you have a way to measure the quality of your accessibility? For example, integrated into your CI?
Yeah, I mean, you can integrate a lot of tests in the CI, but just to reiterate on that, you can do a lot of automated tests. You have tools, you have DQ, you have a lot of packages. So if you look for Axe Core, you're gonna find node packages that you can integrate to CI, CD tools. And you can also use Lighthouse. Lighthouse has some, they have, you already know, like performance, accessibility, they have many things like that. So you can eventually have decide of a threshold you want to have and ensure you don't go above that threshold. But this should always be just 40% of testing. The rest can't be automated and needs to be done manually.
Okay, there's another one here. Danilo has asked, what would be a good starting point of a product that has never worked in their alley?
So something I've done with people, products, and even developers is I've been, and I can share that later, but I've asked them to navigate on some websites, and the websites that have a lack of web accessibility. For example, we did some exercise the other day where you couldn't use your mouse. You should navigate with your keyboard only. And it was, Matt can remember about this. This was an amazing experience because it was really challenging. I think a lot of people don't understand until they're tried by themselves and they are in the situation that is absolutely similar with what a lot of people are facing. So I think to get some sense of what is web accessibility and how much is important, I think putting people in other shoes or eventually having someone that will share his experience or her experience, I think can change a lot of mindsets. And I would say a lot of people, I mean, companies, they don't want to spend money on lawsuits. So I actually am looking to write an article about hidden like the money you don't see, but you may need to spend if you don't do things right, and lawsuits is part of it. Like, a lot of companies don't want lawsuits and spend money on lawsuits because they didn't take the time to do correctly accessibility.
And there's a follow-up one to Danilo. Danilo, I'm not sure if this is following up on your own question or on Eugene. So I'm going to show yours first just to keep it synced, but then we'll move on to Eugene's question. So what would be the lowest hanging fruit to start with?
What do you mean by lowest hanging fruit?
Like the basics to start with.
I would say the don't wait for possibly others to tell you, oh, you need to test about accessibility. Start by yourself. Like, you have all the tools are free. You can use it. You can start testing things. At Kiji, we had a lot of people like testing these kind of things and logging bugs and even fixing the bugs themselves. So I would say don't wait. Like, start right now. And be evangelist, like explain why it's so important. It's not like I said in the presentation, learn HTML. Yeah, I know it's kind of funny, but it's true. If you really care about coding properly, coding with the standards, just understand how HTML really works behind the scenes, how something is that important. Section has a meaning. H1 has a meaning, and all the things we use have meaning. So just be curious, test, use the tools. We learn a lot using these automated tools because it's not just going to tell you, hey, this is wrong. It's going to explain you why this is wrong, why you should care, why you should be careful, and why you should fix this. So be the front end guys. Be the one that inspire better coding and better practices.
All right. And there's one more question that's actually somewhat related to that. How would you sell accessibility testing to your project manager or tech lead?
So I hope in part, the president may have answered part of that question. But I think everyone wants a product that everyone can use, like not just a group of people. That's one thing. Like, and that represent. I mean, you can just search. You'll find so many surveys, so many data about how many people use. But like, just imagine that even you or anyone, you can, unfortunately, accidents happen, and one day you can break your arm, and so you just have this one you can use, and this can happen to anyone. This can happen to people working at your company. It can happen to your friends. Just imagine if you can't, like if you have to navigate just with the keyboard or I don't know, you are trying to do something on the web and your mouse doesn't work anymore because the battery is done. And you need to use, you have so many ways of showing that accessibility and web accessibility is not something just for people in wheelchair. I'm sorry to just say that, but disability is something we all face daily in different situations. It can be permanent, but it can be situational. So it's something that touches really everyone. And I think you have a lot of ways to sell that. But like, if you say, hey, if we don't fix this, we're going to have a lawsuit. I'm pretty sure a lot of people will react to that and will try to think, okay, so if we do that effort right now, we can avoid a lot of problems after. It's better to do it right now than waiting for the worst.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you so much, David.